What's going on, you guys? It's Evan the Pawn Man, and we're here for another great episode of Pawn Chats. Joining me, he is a social media influencer on TikTok, Instagram, here on YouTube, all across the board, Mr. Gregg HINTHORN. Greg, thank you. So nice to meet you. Why don't you tell them how we met? Because I've known you digitally for quite a long time.
That's right. It was TikTok in 2020. You were making a lot of videos, and I suddenly came across a guy making humorous videos that I had never heard of that type of humor in my entire life, so kind of got me addicted.
So you stood out to me because I like to joke that I could make a great TikTok agent where I can see somebody's video and I can tell if they don't have a big following, or if they have a big following or not. I can tell if they're going to grow, if they're going to succeed, or if they're going to fail. I'm usually right. And I'm not going to start name dropping because it's actually a massive pet peeve of mine. But there are some influencers that I've been following for quite a long time, and I'm very friendly with them, and I've never met them. I'm trying to. Why I'm here now talking to you like this, but, well, one of the reasons anyway. And you got free booze. You were in that category to me where you stood out right away. And it was because you were doing these niche videos that were very engaging and informative. The way you were delivering your message was very crisp and concise. Your voice was good. You had all the things going for you, and you were doing grammar stuff when I wasn't seeing anyone doing that. Guess, why don't you tell us about how you got into that and became the grammar guy on TikTok, and we'll go from there.
In January of 22, I discovered TikTok. And the short form videos, and I was wanting to lose weight at the time, so it was the diet, this all meat diet, paleo diet, was particularly grabbed my attention. And then YouTube's offerings of the same thing were 10-minute videos. Instead of 1-minute video, I got the whole story. So I was like, that's cool. And then I wanted to do something. So I talked to my ex-girlfriend at the time, and I just said, hey, what do you suggest I do? And she's like, you know, why don't you just give the same sort of writing advice that you've been doing for years for people that are, you know, business guys that want to write better. And just kind of give them the same advice. So there was a Saturday in January, early February, and I just left the gym and just had a particular moment where a colleague of the one particular writer that I was coaching had a friend pass, and just talking about the value of relationships and people, and kind of like to your story of coming out and trying to actually meet people in the flesh. And so I posted it. Didn't get many views, but it wasn't enough to discourage me from actually jumping in and doing it again. And so I started doing once every 2 weeks, then once a week, and then a couple of times a week. And I would record the videos, and this is one of the things I learned early on that actually kept with me even today. And that is that what you don't want to do is record a video and then post it, because you're emotionally so tied to that content that you look at, an hour later you go, oh, it only has 3 likes? Well, I must suck because I was expecting 7 likes. And I was too emotionally tied to those quick results. And so I started then realizing that I need to make all my videos on the weekend and then kind of dish them out sparingly during the week. And if I had a hot topic, that's great. Record the hot topic and then analyze, does it have to come out now, or could it come out in 5 days and be just the same thing? And 90% of the time, just the same thing. I continued that cycle for a few weeks, and I was growing. I think I was up to 4,000 followers at that point.
But that, I mean, when you've never made content before and you suddenly have several thousand followers, I mean, I remember when I broke 1,000 followers on my comedy page, and I was like, oh my God, 1,000! And now I can go live! Holy shit, I'm getting somewhere.
Yeah.
Versus, once you start putting out content, it's like, well, that number doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, it's all good. I thought, well, in fact, my goal was at this point, if I could ever make it to 10,000 followers. I had a client who was like, you don't understand social media. It's like a younger person's game. So part of it was driven by, not spite, but just driven by like...
Yeah, not the same way too, like, oh fuck, I'm gonna prove you wrong.
Yes, exactly.
I'm gonna make you eat your words.
I know what I'm doing, come on. Doesn't matter that I'm 55. So I started regular making videos on the weekends, and then during the week I just throw them out. And one time I did it, buddy was over, we were having dinner, hanging out, watching TV, and he left, And I looked at my phone. So I had about 2,000 or 3,000 followers at that point. When he left, I was like, oh wow, I'm up to like 5. That's interesting. That's quite a big jump. I don't usually get even 2,000 followers on a single video. And then I woke up the next morning with 22,000 followers. Mm-hmm. And I was like, it was very interesting, my own emotional response. I didn't go from like, I was like not yay at all. I was like, oh, this is a responsibility now.
Yeah. And that's not, a lot of people, maybe some of you watching, think like, oh, I wish I could have that. That sounds amazing. It's not. It's kind of scary when you went to sleep and you wake up and it's like, fuck, wait, how did this get so popular?
Yeah. Because ultimately, you never know what video is going to go popular.
Well, I do now.
Oh, you do?
Well, I shouldn't say that, but it's more I can predict. There's certain things I know are hot. The right things is the right thing to say and do. But you can't do all your content based on that. It's not positive. You know, all the stuff that I know sells, it's all things with negative connotations.
That's interesting. I wonder if the same applies to my own.
I think as a content creator, you have a responsibility to at least inject positivity as well into the internet.
Yeah, I did realize this, that I had inadvertently taken what I thought was an obvious stand, but it ended up being a hard stand on something.
What was that?
Whether or not you should say Becky and me or Becky and I are going to a store.
Well, it's grammar. There's a rule.
And you know what? Your rule is based on a dominant white hierarchy. And so really, it's all about, grammar should be about reflecting the usage of common day occurrences, and therefore there's no right or wrong. It's simply like a record of history is all it is.
Yeah.
So that's a shift. That is a shift that we didn't have, 20, 30, 40 years ago. So that we have now is that, so in the beginning it was like, okay, these things are right and wrong. We're setting right and wrong. You're wrong if you do this, you're right if you do this. Over time it's morphed into, we're going to catalog how these things are being used. There's really no right and wrong because people have different circumstances. The
internet and social media has allowed us to create our own reality and live in that reality and not come out of that reality.
Yep.
And it is to the detriment of society. It is destroying us. And like the rules of grammar are like the rules of physics. They don't bend. It's not, maybe on this day, well, maybe gravity doesn't work this day and I can say ain't. No, ain't is not a word. And Jesus tap dancing Christ. This is the dumbing down of our society being perpetuated by technology, the very thing that's supposed to link us up and make us smarter and help us. It's actually ripping us apart and making us dumber.
And without any universal agreed upon principles, it really will become...
Well, we have universally agreed upon principles. They're called the laws of grammar and physics.
Yes.
And yeah,
but
Jesus fucking Christ.
But I will say this, to that point, there are, we can say that, but in reality, over time, for instance, the word gay has changed meanings several times. Mm-hmm. Okay? So there is not the fact that words don't morph, that like the use of the semicolon changes over time. It is true that maybe in the midst of it, it feels really wrong, but we look back later going, well, that's really not an issue. Of course we're going to, say he, they.
Yeah. Well, what is language? It is something that is understood between you and I. So if I say something that's a made-up word, but you understand it, we have used language. I have communicated, even if it's a made-up word or it's not a word. But, then you can, certainly the law, like I said, the laws of grammar, like the laws of physics, it becomes like a courtroom where it's open to interpretation. And yeah, it was never meant to be given this kind of wiggle room interpretation.
Yeah, but I would submit that in reality, it does happen. We don't see it happen. So after I started posting these real personal videos of giving advice based on the types of advice I gave to clients, I realized there's a lot of reward in that. After I hit that 22,000 mark and it started to grow very fast, I was like, I'd like to do more of this. And then after that, I was growing about 2,000 to 5,000 a day. Every day I posted. And
posting once a day.
Posting once or twice a day. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't mitigate the fact that I happened to be lucky. It was the beginning of the pandemic. People didn't have anything to do.
Mm-hmm. Right place, right time.
Right place, right time. Yeah. I continued to post. I would say at some point I realized I hit around 450,000 followers, and then I started losing 1,500 followers every day. Mm-hmm. Well, every time I posted, I lost 1,500 followers, which really gets discouraging because you think, oh no, what did I do wrong? Well, it's either one of two things. You suck, or they're tired of hearing you doing the same thing over and over again. That was a huge disincentive. So like last year I posted 6 times. They sent me a very nice little Christmas gift. You open up one a day. That was fun. I'm
sorry, I have never heard from anyone from TikTok, ever. And I think
I would love to know why.
Interesting. Well, my beeline answers are anti-Semites.
Yeah.
So, but like you mentioned, though, you were posting a lot, and suddenly your audience kind of started to shrink, and it has continued to shrink. Do you have anything you want to attribute that to? And
yeah, so I hit 400, moved quickly to 425. Around 448, all of a sudden, every time I posted, I lost 1,500 followers. And I got to say, and I don't say this with any pride, because obviously this was a fault and weakness of my own. I stopped posting. Because I'm like, well, damn, if they're not liking me anymore, why am I here? Now, I have known every single creator that I have known, whether it's Knox Laurie, who does an awesome account talking about words and stuff. He's amazing. Check him out if you don't have not heard him. I was at 400 when he was at 60, and he continued to grow, and I was growing slowly. And then now I stopped, and he continued on to, say, 1.2 million. I think it was the last time I checked. So no, he continued to grow and did not stop. So he's had those waves where people stop posting, and yet he was able to continue to do it, whereas I simply made this stupid decision of stopping.
Did he, and I'm not familiar with this creator, did he diversify in what he was doing? He just was like, so what I think you have going for you still, and this is now just me giving my 2 cents, is don't sell yourself short. I don't know why your account stopped growing when your content stood out to me because it was so informative. And you're an older person on an app where I mainly see younger people, but the older people I see on there that stand out, they really stand out. Being older and being distinct with your content has a massive advantage, and I just don't understand why you have started to shrink when, I mean, you took your foot off the gas, but the content didn't change. It remained good.
But I do think there's a priority on the algorithm.
Greg, the art's good. We're sitting in Gregg's art studio.
So I think, in my mind, it was the fact that there's a recency bias on the algorithm. And the fact that I stopped posting just meant, okay, he's like not that active anymore, we'll push out someone else. Because everyone that I've noticed, and I've talked to, and there's been several, Knox Laurie was one, but I've talked to others, they always go through this phase, and I'll be curious if you ever have, where you're growing, and then it's kind of like barely growing, and then the next thing you know, it's like, ugh. It's like, you know, you lose every time you post.
I am in that right now, actually. And I've had this, it goes in a weird cycle, and I'm not sure if it's just part of the cycle, but like, the content hasn't changed. It's all the same stuff. It's the same pod, man. I'm posting every day, post at the same time. I don't know why suddenly it just, but it does that. And my pet theory is it is designed to make you go crazy. Because that makes the app more addicting, which makes the product better.
But you know what? Honestly, it doesn't really, none of that matters. I still believe that if you had good, compelling content, that will blow up and that you will reach a lot of people.
Yeah, indeed.
And you don't know what the good, compelling content is unless you're pushing enough content out. It is a game of quantity, as much as we like to think of, like, and I've made this mistake so many times, of like trying to refine that 7-second video until it's a work of master art, and then it got, 1,100 views, and I'm like, So, yeah.
Isn't that frustrating? Do you have any plans for this year for returning to content? Are you going to be making more content?
So I want to do 2 things. First off, it's going to be a little bit of an experiment, since I only posted 6 times last year, and that is there content, or what will it look like? Because I'm sure when I start pasting more, people that I don't know will look at it and go, oh, why did I follow him in the first place? So I will continue to lose. So I'm really curious when that bottom turns. But then what is the content? Because I'm planning to stretch out a little bit beyond words, make it a little bit more holistic, but sort of in the same genre. And I'll be curious how that works. How does the present audience relate to this new type of content?
Right. Great. Thank you so much for sitting down with me and hosting me at your lovely home and giving me lots of booze, because I wasn't gonna turn this into we're just drinking on camera, but we started filming. I was like, fuck, we already had a couple of drinks. We may as well not try to hide it. You guys follow Gregg on TikTok, here on YouTube as well. I have links in the video description. Great content about grammar, grammatics, how to properly speak, write, enunciate. You're diversifying with some of your other messaging as well with what you're putting out. You know, how to write emails, how to stand up for yourself. You have a very positive message on social media. There's a lot to be learned from his videos. Check them out. And if you guys like this video, be sure you give it a thumbs up. Hit that notification button so you guys know when new episodes of Pawn Man, Between the Pawn, Pawn Chat, Pawn Hub, all the other great stuff we do on this channel are coming out. Let me know if you guys want to become a sponsor of an episode, these chats, anything else. And again, please follow Mr. Gregg Hinthorn and myself. And I'll see you guys back here for another great Pawn Chats.